Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack. This is DSNY Newscast, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, as we're going to be doing the very first ever Waltineer Showcase, where you get your comments, questions, opinions, and even the odd Disney rant featured within this DSNY Newscast. So we're going to be talking everything from Marvel to Mary Poppins and even the monorails up next. So before we get into it for today, I just want to say very quickly that the response to this whole Waltineer Showcase idea was fantastic. Seriously, there were hundreds of different comments wanting to discuss so much to do with the Walt Disney Company, and I had to narrow it down to just the 10 comments for today, otherwise this video would go on for hours and hours and hours. And also, on a side note, if I so happen to butcher anybody's name in this video today, I'm extremely sorry in advance. Anyways, now let's get right into the questions. So the first question comes from Jen Fury, who asked, is there any news on the new Mary Poppins movie using animation as well as live action, as in the original film? Well, that's a great question, and the simple answer to this is yes. We're going to be seeing live action and animation within a Mary Poppins movie similar to the original. As it was reported from the footage that was shown off at D23 Expo last year, that Disney will be putting Mary Poppins and the other characters within the movie into a 2D animated landscape, which will be extremely similar to the original Jolly Holiday scene from Mary Poppins. Now, to be honest, I feel that this is a great move by Disney, as this whole movie is going to be fueled off nostalgia, and so what better to actually reminisce and also bring back that nostalgic vibe than to have some classic Disney 2D animation within this Mary Poppins Returns sequel. But I am also a little bit trepidatious that Disney aren't going far enough in telling a new story, and it may just be a retelling of the same Mary Poppins story but for today, instead of going in a new direction, because they are staying with the Banks family in this new movie. But from what I've heard, this movie is going to be like a big, grand old movie musical of the 1950s and 60s, and will have some great Disney appearances such as Dick Van Dyke back in a Mary Poppins movie. But I really do hope that Disney do nail the soundtrack for this movie and make it really feel like that Sherman-esque music of the original. So the next question comes from Chris Seifert. I do have a question about the Walt Disney World monorail. I know as of lately it is having problems and falling into disrepair, but continues to run. When might they shut it down to fix or upgrade the monorail? Now, I've picked this question out as it is particularly topical, as this past week Monorail Red did actually have a malfunction whilst in operation, with the doors malfunctioning and opening whilst it was in transit to the next destination, which is of course a major health and safety hazard for Disney and could be a major PR disaster if anything terrible were to happen. Now, since this whole fiasco, it's being reported by Screamscape that the Monorail Red line is going to be taken down for a period of maintenance, so therefore they can find out what went wrong and fix the issue. But this is all just an underlying issue with the monorail service, as it hasn't had the type of investment that Disney should be doing for this major transportation service for Walt Disney World. Now, there are those out there that love the monorail, I'm one of them. But if it is a hazard to the guests, then it shouldn't really be in operation. Now, I personally believe that it still does look extremely futuristic and it's a great type of efficient transportation service around the resort. However, with the Disney Skyliner service coming in the next couple of years, who knows what the future will hold for the monorail at Walt Disney World. Now, the next question comes from Xander Casey. What is your honest opinion on the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster coming to Epcot? Because from what I heard, a lot of Epcot fans aren't happy about it. Now, personally, I don't mind Disney bringing a Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster to Epcot. Yeah, sure, there were better IPs for Disney to base a roller coaster around, especially in the Universe of Energy Pavilion. I would have preferred Disney to go down the WALL-E route and give WALL-E a better representation within any one of the Disney parks, and Epcot's future world being a perfect example of where the message of environmentalism and education could really work within the Universe of Energy Pavilion. And so why don't I mind Disney bringing a roller coaster to Epcot? Well, the idea behind the Epcot Centre to me really did die when they removed stuff like Horizons from that park and they started to bring in things like Mission Space and Test Track. So if they're going to bring in roller coasters to try and boost the attendance, I don't mind that. I just care about how they tell the story within the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster and also the innovative technology that they use within it to actually make it appealing to all different generations. Cinema Synopsis says, do you think there is any chance that Disney will bring a virtual reality experience like Secrets of the Empire, which I loved, to the Disney parks, or maybe even a VR roller coaster? Now, Disney CEO Bob Iger has been very clear on this matter, as at the early beginnings of last year in 2017, he issued a statement to the LA Times saying that he believed that AR, augmented reality, was the future and did have a place within the Disney parks. But he didn't see virtual reality slapping on a headset and just being sat there in a room being the future of the Disney parks. And I do kind of get where he's coming from, as to be honest, the Disney park experience did kind of pioneer this whole idea of virtual reality, as everything around you when you step inside a Disney park in a particular land, like Pandora the World of Avatar or Star Wars Galaxies Edge, which is coming up, will be completely themed to your surroundings and will make you feel like you are actually within that place. So is there really a need for virtual reality within a Disney park, despite the capacity issues and also the cleanliness reasons behind not bringing VR to a Disney park on a mass scale? I don't really think that Disney should go down that route, but maybe augmented reality, which is a type of system where it adds to your surroundings, is actually viable and could be used within a Disney park. Okay, Holly Haringa says, I am probably going to get attacked by major Star Wars fans for saying this. I think that they should have used the land at Disneyland to possibly build different smaller attractions that are unique to Disneyland and kept Star Wars Galaxy's Edge something that is unique to Florida. Thoughts on this? Now, I've got to kind of agree with Holly here, as building two identical 14-acre lands at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World does have its problems. But the differentiating factor here are they're not exactly identical, as at Disneyland you've got the 3 entrances in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, whereas over at Walt Disney World you've only got 2, with Disney leaving open an area for an expansion zone over at Walt Disney World. But don't forget that Walt Disney World is also going to be getting Star Wars Hotel, which will make it a more immersive and also more of a hardcore Star Wars fan experience over Walt Disney World compared to Disneyland. But I do get where Holly's coming from with the need of more attractions within Disneyland and also to make it unique to Disneyland and separate the two different parks. And that's kind of where we come on to the next question from ABM of PGH, who says, what do you think of the general homogenization of the Disney parks? California Adventure and Hollywood Studios are getting more and more similar by the year, and almost every attraction in Disney World has a somewhat similar counterpart in Disneyland. And it's almost to the point where I'm going to say, why go to Disneyland if everything is in Disney World? What do you think? Well, yeah, that is a major concern of Disney at the moment, that there is an awful lot of these similar type of attractions being built on both coasts, and not just both coasts, but also in Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disney, and also Hong Kong and Shanghai. But you've got to understand why the Disney company does this, and that's because it's cheaper to develop one attraction and then put it into multiple parks and then update that attraction for every single park at the same time, like they did with Soarin'. Whereas if they created unique attractions for each one of the parks, then you might not see those attractions updated or even renovated and refurbed as often as you might like. But I do think that we're still going to be seeing some differentiation between Disneyland and Walt Disney World when it comes to stuff like Marvel. And that nicely brings us on to the next question by Jordan Drodge, who says, Jack, in your Q&A video, please can you talk about the Universal Marvel agreement over in Florida? And do you think we will see more Marvel over in Florida except for Guardians of Galaxy over at Epcot? Now, the long and short of this is yes, I really do think that we're going to be seeing more Marvel within Walt Disney World. But the caveat here is not for quite a long time. As with Disney recently acquiring Fox, or announcing to acquire Fox in the next year or so, It means that they have more power than ever to offer Universal Studios a bargaining chip, so therefore they can bring in more of the Marvel Cinematic Universe within the Disney parks over in Florida. For an example, with Disney owning stuff like Planet of the Apes and Deadpool, it might be a great way for Disney to say, hey, you can use these types of IPs within your Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, because obviously Disney wouldn't want a Deadpool-esque ride within their parks, but Universal would see it as a major drawing factor, so therefore they may then relinquish the rights to major Marvel characters such as Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man to be used within a Walt Disney World park. The next question comes from Mr. Wendy Bird, who says, in your honest opinion, do you welcome Disney's push for theatrically released sequels for its films? If so, which movies would you like to see get at least one sequel? Now, I had to think long and hard about this, as to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the sequel idea. Now, Disney see it as a major play for brands, which I'll come back to in a minute. But the one movie I would like to see a sequel to is Pixar's Inside Out, as that really does have legs to create another story seeing Riley within her teenage years growing up, and how that could help children and teenagers think about life and how they're growing up, and that could really have a really good message behind it. But here's where I stand on the whole sequel thing, and it's really feeding into a different question which I want to answer myself, and that's about the Disney Parks strategy. And you see, the Disney Parks strategy at the moment, the most recent one, is that if a movie gets a sequel, more than likely it's going to be getting a Disney park attraction. And that's because Disney more than ever aren't in the traditional Hollywood movie making business of just one really great movie and then on to the next one like Walt Disney used to, but they're really in the brand business. And what I mean by that is when a movie gets a sequel, or maybe even a third movie, it becomes a franchise, and then from there it becomes a brand. And if they've got a brand like, let's say, Frozen, they can sell an awful lot more experiences, Broadway shows, merchandise, attractions, all built around that one property, and it's extremely valuable to Disney. That's the reason why Disney see Avatar as such an attractive, promising prospect, as they have with the Disney parks, and now we're at least going to be seeing 3 more Avatar movies. So in essence, if you hear that a Disney movie is going to be getting a sequel, more than likely you're going to be seeing it have a greater presence within the Disney parks. The next question comes from John Bishop over at MakingStarWars.net, who's a great friend of the show, and I'd also recommend going over and checking out MakingStarWars.net, as it's a great Star Wars news site. But his question here is, how do you think they'll deal with using existing characters in a First Order era space? How would you plan it yourself? Also, do you think there's any shot of Batuu being represented in Lucasfilm storytelling outside of the parks? So this is where I stand on this topic. Now, it's extremely difficult to use Darth Vader within Batuu and Galaxy's Edge, as Disney have already kind of pigeonholed themselves by saying that this is set firmly within the new era of the movies. But we do know so far, for an example, that Kylo Ren is going to be featured towards the end of the Battle Escape attraction. But the main problem here, which I see, is the Millennium Falcon attraction, as this is such an iconic piece of Star Wars history, with many different characters flying the Millennium Falcon over the years, such as Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, and of course Han Solo, and in the most recent movies, Rey. So which one of those characters are they going to use for this Millennium Falcon attraction? And to answer the second part of that question, I think that there is a shot of Disney featuring Batuu maybe in the live action Star Wars series that's going to be coming to their Disney streaming service at some point as kind of an Easter egg or just like a special episode, but I don't see them majorly featuring it in any one of the upcoming Star Wars movies. And the final question comes from Chris Larson. I would love to hear your insight on Solo. It is so close and it seems like there is so little out there. Will the release date get pushed back? When might we see a trailer? Do you think it will be any good? Now, to be honest, there's quite a few questions to answer there. So first of all, Solo isn't going to get pushed back. It's coming out on May 25th of this year, the same month as when Avengers comes out. Disney are definitely not going to be pushing Solo back any further. And I would expect the trailer for Solo to come out roughly around the same time as maybe even the Super Bowl, as it would be a great way for Disney to get all of those eyes onto this major trailer coming out for the Solo anthology movie. And to answer the last part, yes, I am actually quite excited to watch this Solo movie. I reckon it will be a little bit like Pirates of the Caribbean, the way that it will be filmed and the way that it will be centered around one character with Jack Sparrow, but in this case Han Solo. And I am actually a big fan of Ron Howard and his filmmaking process, and he always delivers a very sound, strong movie. So whether it's going to be a Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, I don't think it will be like that, but I do think it will have the same sort of pedigree and standard as Rogue One. And so that's been a great first Waltineer Showcase. We will maybe do it again sometime, and don't forget to go ahead and subscribe down below if you're new to this channel. Hit that notification icon so that you always get an update whenever one of these videos comes out. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a massive thumbs up. And I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.